Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, Carnival Pride is suffering some mobility issues. We also have what's happening in Bar Harbor. To be honest, not a whole lot. We also have some good news for getting on and off a Carnival ship. And then we have a horror story about people trapped on a plane in 111-degree temperature. Our first story is the Carnival Pride just reported that it had to skip a port in Switzerland because it developed on Tuesday evening mobility issues, problems with the engines, and the engineers are working on a fix for the Carnival Pride. No report yet exactly what the problem is, but they cannot go at full speed. Also, if you tracked the cruise ship, you saw a few times in the Baltic, it literally came to a complete dead stop a few times. So there was some pretty significant issues. Now, is it heading back to its final port call of destination of Dover, which it's supposed to arrive tomorrow and take on new passengers for a 9-day cruise? It's not headed to Dover right now. It was headed to Germany, which kind of leads me to think that maybe it's not going to get to Dover for its next cruise. So if you're sailing on the Carnival Pride in a couple days and you happen to see this video, you might be calling Carnival to find out exactly what's going on. I'll keep you informed as much as I know, but right now it's a pretty scarce likelihood that it's actually going to get to Dover in time, at least for the morning. It may arrive later in the day if it leaves fast enough, if it's a quick fix that they can do in Germany and turn it around. Maybe you'll leave later in the evening and it'd be a late disembarkation, late embarkation. Now, to compensate passengers for missing their last port, they are giving a $100 onboard credit per stateroom. So that's a little bit of compensation, but I don't think that's going to be an awful lot of compensation if they don't get back to Dover, where the majority of passengers have their flights and destinations waiting for them at that point. Okay, also Bar Harbor, we had all the meetings last week and the court cases and everything were going on and stating both sides of the argument. Well, if you're expecting a decision anytime soon, don't hold your breath. It can take 2 to 3 more months before we're going to hear any decision whatsoever from this judge. And then really, no matter what happens, I'm imagining both sides are going to try, and whoever loses is going to try and appeal to the Supreme Court. So yeah, we're still months and months and months and months away of getting any kind of satisfactional answer on whether or not cruise ships can go in and out of Bar Harbor at a normal time or restricted starting next year. Okay, another story we have is the Carnival Cruise Line knows the frustration of long lines getting off your ship in the cruise port, or even long lines getting onto your ship during embarkation. It can take a long time to go through security, etc. Well, one of the things they're using now that they're hoping to expand in more US ports is facial recognition. Now, if you've ever gotten off a cruise ship that doesn't have facial recognition and you actually have to go and line up in front of an agent and you have to get, show them your passport and they check you over and everything, those lines can be an hour, hour and a half sometimes to get through. And if you're at the facial recognition one, 5 minutes to get through. So if they expand that to more and more of the cruise ports in the US, that means it's only going to get faster and faster to get on and off the ship. So that's a good news by Carnival. I think more and more cruise lines, the more they can do that, the more they can make things easier for passengers to get on and off. It makes it a far less stressful cruise. And you can just lay back and start your cruise off right? If you're not lined up for like 3 hours to get onto the cruise ship and then 2.5 hours to get off the cruise ship, how much more enjoyable is your cruise memories once you start thinking about how that cruise was, right? If you don't have the badness of those lined in there. So I think that's a good idea. Next, let's talk about a plane that got stuck in really high temperatures. Pretty severe outcome, actually. But before I get there, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you want to keep up to date with everything going on in cruising, from brand new ships to luxury ships to the older ships to cruise news to travel destinations and what's going on with airlines, ships that are in trouble, etc. We'll try and keep you up to date with everything going on in cruising so you're best prepared for your next cruise. And I hope to do it with a little bit of entertainment as well and keep you somewhat amused. Try and keep it lighthearted as best we can. I hope you'll join us. It doesn't cost anything to hit the subscribe button, but when you do, it really does help the channel out, and I really would appreciate it. Okay, picture this. You just off to Vegas. Vegas is the city of lights, right? With the gambling and the casinos and the Broadway shows and the lights and the brightness, and it's all exciting, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. The trouble is Vegas is in the desert, basically, and it can get extremely hot in Vegas, especially during the summer. And while temperatures on Tuesday reached around 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and Delta Airlines flight leaving from there got stuck on the tarmac for over 4 hours with no air conditioning. The temperature in the plane reached over 111 degrees. It got so bad that many passengers passed out. Many passengers actually, according to reports on board, soiled themselves. It got so bad that by the time they started getting ready to take the passengers finally off that plane, they had to have stretchers and ambulances standing by. And 5 people, including 1 flight attendant, actually had to be escorted off the plane onto stretchers. It got so bad on the plane. Then, just to top it off, you just had this horrible, horrible experience. They're just flying to Atlanta, and you could not get your flight out. Well, they rescheduled the flight. And guess what? That flight has already been canceled. So people are still stuck and still haven't been able to get back to Atlanta through Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines spokesperson said they are looking into the situation to find out how this happened, why this happened, etc. And yeah, if it's really hot out there and you're stuck on a plane, the plane, unless it's flying, does not have its air conditioning and everything going on. Imagine sticking in a tin can, crowded around people, you know, packed in, you know how tight airplanes are, for 4 hours in 111 degree temperatures. It must have been an absolute nightmare on that plane, and yeah, it should never, ever happen. They should have realized at one point that they weren't going to take off, and they should have done their best efforts to get that plane unloaded, even if they had to wheel out a cart to the door, open up the emergency hatch, and let people off that way and let them walk off. Because quite frankly, it was so dangerous, people could have died on the plane from heat exhaustion. And that should never, ever happen. Well, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think, you know, no big deal. I think 111 degree temperature in a tin can, holy jumping, I'd be going nuts. I really would. I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.